What's going on, everybody? Woo! It's your boy, the Soaring Eagle, and on today's shred session, we'll be doing an amp shootout between the legendary Peavey 6505 Plus and the newly introduced 100-watt Mesa Boogie Badlander. Let's do this thing! Alright, signal chain for this video is my Kiesel 7-string SCB loaded with the Mazio pickups. It's going to be running through a tone bone, so I have both amps running through the same 4x12 Mesa cabinet using a Shure SM57 to capture all the tones. No pedals in line with it except for a tube screamer, as we're going to check out later because we're going to look at both amps boosted and unboosted. So for the first section, we're going to use the crush channel of the Mesa Boogie Badlander and the crazy death red channel of the Peavey 6505 Plus, dialed in how I like them. We're going to go back and forth and see how they compare. Let's go! Alright, we're going to do the same thing. I kept the settings the same on both amps. I just dialed the gain back a little bit because I'm about to hit a Tube Screamer Mini boost in front of both of them, back and forth, so you can see how it sounds like on each amp. Let's go! Alright, so what I've done now is I put both amps at 12 o'clock, still using the crush channel of the Badlander and the lead channel of the Peavey 6505 Plus. Just going to go back and forth between those two so we can see the difference. Let's go! So as you can kind of tell, the gain structure is different between the two amps, so I'm going to change nothing except for cranking the gain up just about 3 o'clock on the Badlander and go back and forth again so we can see when there's a little more saturation from that amp. Starting off with the Badlander as well. Alright, so what I've done now is I've put both amps either in the crunch mode or the crunch channel. I've dialed them in the way I like the way they sound separately, and then we're going to go back and forth and see how they compare to each other. Let's go! Alright, so now we're going to do both crunch channels, and we're going to also boost it with a Tube Screamer Mini, and then we're going to see how they compare to each other. Let's go! All right, so now I have both amps in the crunch mode still. I've put everything at 12 o'clock, and you've probably figured it out. We're gonna go back and forth and compare them. Do it! All right, so as I've said before, the gain structures are a little different, so the only thing I'm going to change is I'm going to crank the gain up to about 3 o'clock on the Badlander, so it has a little more saturation. We're going to go back and forth again and see how it compares. All right, so now we're going to check out both of the clean channels on these amps. I know some of you don't care too much about the clean, but some of you do. I personally do as well because I use it in our band. So I've got them both dialed in how I would use them in a live setting or in the practice room, and you can probably guess what we're about to do. We're going to go back and forth and compare them. Let's do it. All right, well, since we already have everything set up, might as well go ahead and use the Tube Screamer Mini to boost both the clean channels and see what kind of tones we can get. Let's do this thing. All right, and also lastly on the clean channel, I put everything at 12 o'clock on both of them, and we're going to see how they fare against each other in that realm as well. All right, so I guess lastly what we'll do is we'll just do a little bit of shredderoo on this thing, go back and forth and see how that picks up the solos. This is unboosted, no effects, just pure blown amplifier tone. All right, everybody, thank you for hanging out with me today. I hope life's treating you all well. Let me know in the comments below which amp did you like the best. Maybe you like certain elements of one amp versus the other. I'd be interested to hear what you think. And make sure you hit the subscribe button and the like button below, and I'd really appreciate it. If you want my opinion, I will tell you that both of these amps are excellent. I've had this Peavey 6505 Plus now for 9 years. I got it back in 2012. If you can't tell, it's got this cool little American flag badge on it. It's because they made a patriotic version and only 30 of them. And I got number 30 to 30 and it's signed by Hartley Peavey. So this one's been my ride or die for so long, it's a part of me. With that being said, I got this Badlander back in October, November when they first rolled out, and I fell in love with it. I'm now using it as my main rig. I haven't got to use it live because of COVID, but I'll be doing this next weekend with a very small, socially distanced crowd, so I'm interested to see how it sounds live and on the stage. I would tell you that the main differences I noticed were, number one, the clean channels. For those of you who do use them, that's probably the only downfall about the 6505 Plus. Reason being is because the EQ is shared between the clean and the crunch channel. So if you dial in a really awesome crunch channel and you try to go back to the clean, it just doesn't have a lot of headroom. It's always going to be broken up. So what I've typically done in the past, since I use the clean channel, is I turn the pre-gain down to like 1 or 2, crank the post, and I just use the main rhythm and the solo channel as the channel 2 or a red channel, however you want to look at it, lead channel. And that's how I've used it for years. The difference there with the Badlander, it has a lot of headroom in the clean. So if clean is something you want to use, you're going to have much more versatility out of this amp than this one. So when it comes to the distortion channels as a whole, the Peavey has way more gain on tap. Almost more than what you need. You know, I keep it cranked at about a 6 or a 7, and that does the trick for me. It's just like this crazy dragon beast that you have to tame. Whereas on the Badlander, if you can't tell, I have the gain pegged at 10. And if this was Spinal Tap, I'd have it at 11. But I've never done that before, but oddly enough, it's actually usable in this amp versus maybe other amps you would use. And I feel like when I crank it like that, I still get the gain saturation that I'm looking for to where I don't have to boost it. Granted, if you're gonna pull the gain back on each one of these and you're really gonna hit the Tube Screamer or something like that and you're gonna use that every time, you're obviously still gonna get some really gnarly distortion tones out of this. So really, I think what it comes down to is just preference, which one you like a little bit better, the tones that come from each amp. Regardless, they're very high quality, very well built, and I love them both. So nonetheless, like I said before, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button below. I really appreciate it. I hope life is treating you all well. Soaring Eagle out, baby. Woo!